Hello, Ellie Moose Tracks. It is your auntie again. Oh, and it's Wednesday and rainy, as it happens in Kentucky. Mere hours ago, I was out walking, and quite frankly, I thought that the wind was gonna carry me away like the flying nun. But I did manage to survive, which was good. So I watched a movie and then I thought I should read you a book. I've been practicing wearing a mask. Fear not, this is not a dirty one that has been exposed to the public, but Andy gets claustrophobic, so she's been practicing not freaking out, breathing into a mask. They were made by the very precious Amish community where your Modi lives. So Modi's generous, and she gave a lot of them to other people because they made a lot for her. But today, I am reading. Let me actually take this off because that won't help me very much. I don't do very good with book jackets. I am reading His Shoes Were Far Too Tight, and by Edward Lear. But it was inspired by Daniel Pinkwater, who's the same dude who wrote the Big Orange Splot. I was pumped when I realized that. So that brought just such joy to Auntie's heart. So I'm super excited. And in case you, you're 2.5, so you probably haven't noticed, but in case your mama hasn't noticed, I've clearly not read any of these books before I read them to you, which is why I stumble and don't know how to say some of the words. And I flip them and I squish them, that's just how it is. That's okay though. Auntie is very silly and she does that. It just, it brings some authenticity to this. So, there's that. But yeah, let me get started. We'll see if I can do this without making the pages too shiny. I don't really have a lot of faith in that, but, valiant efforts and all that. And these illustrations are going to be super cool, I can already tell. So, His Shoes Were Far Too Tight. Illustrated, also, by Caliph Brown. So that's cool. Just... Are y'all gonna calm down, cuties? Hoy and Cricket Pearl want to add their voices too. But these are these sweet drawings. Usually I put them outside, but it's raining and I don't want to do that to them. So, I am also obviously sleepy because I am incapable of drinking enough coffee. Oh my goodness, this one's gonna be quite the journey because I didn't look at it beforehand, so I didn't see how many words there were. Introduction. He was a fat, goofy-looking guy with thick eyeglasses. He liked people, but he was shy. He liked kids. He liked animals. He had a cat named Old Foss. This is a picture he drew of himself. It's the cutest picture. His name was Edward Lear. I had to make sure that is the author's name. I'm not crazy. He was born a long time ago, almost 200 years. Mr. Lear was a good artist. He did a famous book of illustrations of parrots, painted landscapes, and even gave drawing lessons to Queen Victoria. That is fancy. Also, I think my hair's getting in the way. Hold on. That didn't last long, possibly because his behavior was too silly to allow him to hang around the royal court, which is a load of lots of bad things. That's silly. Ugh. I think this one's gonna be an awkward read, baby girl. I'm sorry. Because he was shy and had health problems all his life, Mr. Lear kept to himself, which meant he got to observe people from a distance. He may have noticed that adults are a bit ridiculous. No truer words have been said. He could see the funny side of things, and not just funny. He saw how nice it is when things don't make sense in the way we are taught to expect them to make sense. He called this nonsense. When Edward Lear was small, books for kids usually told how if you were not a good child, quiet, obedient, and hardworking, you would starve to death or be eaten by wild wolves. We would never feed you to wild wolves. But in his lifetime, books for children changed, and people began to make books that were supposed to be entertaining and even funny. Mr. Lear loved to make nonsense poems. The first ones were published in a book in 1846. Kids and adults who are not too serious have loved them ever since. We have picked a few and added paintings by Caliph Brown. I think Mr. Lear would have liked them. So turn the page and meet Mr. Lear. I'm so excited about these drawings. Sorry. They really don't like the sketchy people across the street, which, you know, they're new, so I can't blame them. They're not the same ones that are usually there. So unfamiliar faces and all that. Okay. How pleasant to know Mr. Lear. How pleasant to know Mr. Lear, who has written such volumes of stuff. Some think him ill-tempered and queer, but a few think him pleasant enough. His mind is concrete and fastidious. His nose is remarkably big. His visage is more or less hideous. His beard, it resembles a wig. He has ears and 2 eyes and 10 fingers. Leastways, if you reckon 2 thumbs. Long ago, he was one of the singers, but now he is one of the dumbs. He sits in a beautiful parlor with hundreds of books on the wall. He drinks a great deal of marsala, but never gets tipsy at all. Amazing. He has many friends, laymen and clerical. Old Foss is the name of his cat. His body is perfectly spherical. He weareth a runcible hat. When he walks in waterproof white, the children run after him so, calling out, "He's come out in his nightgown, that crazy Englishman, oh!" He weeps by the side of the ocean. He weeps on the top of the hill. He purchases pancakes and lotion and chocolate shrimps from the mill. I don't know about that one. He reads but cannot speak Spanish. He cannot abide ginger beer. Ere the days of his pilgrimage vanish, how pleasant to know Mr. Lear. Look, and there's Old Foss. And there's Mr. Lear. All right. The Pobble who has no toes. The Pobble who has no toes had once as many as we. When they said, "Someday you may lose them all," he replied, "Fish, fiddle, dee, dee." And his aunt Jobiska made him drink lavender water tinged with pink, for she said, "The world in general knows there's nothing so good for Pobble's toes." I don't think you're going to be able to see the words, so we're just going to let you see Auntie Susan. The Pobble who has no toes swam across the Bristol Channel, but before he set out, he wrapped his nose in a piece of scarlet flannel. For his Aunt Jobiska said, no harm come to his toes if his nose is warm. And it's perfectly known that a Pobble's toes are safe provided he minds his nose. I mean, sure, sound logic-ish. The Pobble swam fast and well, and when boats or ships came near him, he tinkedly, blinkedly winkled a bell. Okay, I said that right. So that all the world could hear him. And all the sailors and admirals cried, when they saw him nearing the further side, "He has gone to fish for his Aunt Jobiska's runcible cat with crimson whiskers." Jobiska's? I feel like they should rhyme, and I'm not quite sure how. So I'm saying something wrong, but that's okay. But before he touched the shore of the Bristol Channel, a sea green porpoise carried away his wrapper of scarlet flannel. And when he came to observe his feet, formally garnished with toes so neat, his face at once became forlorn on perceiving that all his toes were gone. Forlorn? Forlorn. Now I'm confused as to if I'm saying all the words wrong. I guess oh well if I am. I presume this is Aunt Jobiska. And this would be the Pobble. And there's that silly little porpoise with the scarf. Rude. Super rude. The Owl and the Pussycat. The Owl and the Pussycat. See, I just wanted to not be shiny though. Okay. The Owl and the Pussycat went to sea in a beautiful pea green boat. They took some honey and plenty of money, wrapped up in a 5-pound note. The Owl looked up to the stars above and sang to a small guitar, "When you're older, this will be really funny," and so inappropriate, but that's okay. "Oh, lovely pussy, oh pussy, my love, what a beautiful pussy you are. You are, what a beautiful pussy you are." And Pussy said to the Owl, "You elegant fowl, how charmingly sweet you sing. Oh, let us be married, too long we have tarried. But what shall we do for a ring? Homer, honey, calm down." No. Homie is still a little grumps. They sailed away for a year and a day to the land where bong trees grow. And there in a woods a piggy wig stood with a ring at the end of his nose. His nose, with a ring at the end of his nose. I have a bad feeling about this. "Dear pig, are you willing to sell for 1 shilling your ring?" Said the piggy, "I will." So they took it away and were married next day by the turkey who lives on the hill. They dined on mince and slices of quince. which they ate with a runcible spoon, and hand in hand on the edge of the sand they danced by the light of the moon. The moon, they danced by the light of the moon. There they are, being little romantics. The duck and the kangaroo. Said the duck to the kangaroo, "Good gracious, how you hop over the fields and the water too, as if you never would stop. My life is a bore in this nasty pond, and I long to go out in the world beyond. I wish I could hop like you," said the duck to the kangaroo. "Please give me a ride on your back," said the duck to the kangaroo. "I would sit quite still and say nothing but quack the whole of the long day through, and would go to the Dee and the Jelly Bow Lee, over the land and over the sea. Please take me a ride, oh do," said the duck to the kangaroo. Said the kangaroo to the duck, "This requires some little reflection. Perhaps on the whole it might bring me luck, and there seems but one objection, which is, if you'll let me speak so bold, your feet are unpleasantly wet and cold, and would probably give me the rheumatiz," said the kangaroo. I assume that means a cold. Said the duck, "As I sat on the rocks, I have thought over that completely, and I bought 4 pairs of worsted socks, which fit my web feet neatly. And to keep out the cold, I've bought a cloak, and every day a cigar I'll smoke, all to follow my own dear true love of a kangaroo." Said the kangaroo, "I'm ready, all in the moonlight pale, but to balance me well, dear duck, sit steady and quite at the end of my tail." So away they went with a hop and a bound, and they hopped the whole world 3 times round. And who's so happy, oh who, as the duck and the kangaroo? Okay. And there they are, having some fun in cute little jumpers and some socks. I'm gonna move you up here. This is getting me confused looking down. Hopefully this will help. We'll find out though. The Jumblies. They went to sea in a sieve, they did. In a sieve they went to the sea. In spite of all their friends could say, on a winter's morn, on a stormy day, in a sieve they went to sea. And when the sieve turned round and everyone cried, "You'll all be drowned," they called aloud, "Our sieve ain't big, but we don't care a button, we don't care a fig, in a sieve we'll go to sea. Far and few are the lands where the Jumblies live." I'm just gonna do it this way. I just want you to not forget what I look like. This is why I keep trying to make sure you see me. I also want to read you these books and they have cool illustrations. Are the lands where the Jumblies live. Their heads are green and their hands are blue, and they went to sea in a sieve. They sailed away in a sieve they did. In a sieve they sailed so fast, with only a beautiful pea green veil tied with a ribbon by way of a sail to a small tobacco pipe mast. And everyone said who saw them go, "Oh, won't they soon upset, you know? For the sky is dark and the voyage long, and happen what may, it's extremely wrong in a sieve to sail so fast. Far and few are the lands where the Jumblies live. Their heads are green and their hands are blue, and they went to sea in a sieve." Sieve. 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 The water, it soon came in. It did. The water, it soon came in. So to keep them dry, they wrapped their feet in a pinky paper all folded neat, and they fastened it down with a pin, and they passed the night in a crockery jar. And each of them said, "How wise we are! Though the sky be dark and the voyage be long, yet we never can think we were rash or wrong. While we round in our sieve we spin, far and few are the lands where the Jumblies live. Their heads are green and their hands are blue, and they went to sea in a sieve." Okay, I was really worried that's where the story was ending. It is not. There's the Jumblies in their sieve, 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 sieve. I'll just alternate back and forth, whichever works. Oh God. Oh, let me put my hair up. Alright, baby girl, I had to put my hair up. I was getting distracted. I mean, let's be real, I'm probably gonna get distracted again, but I'm gonna try. And all night long they sailed away, and when the sun went down, they whistled and warbled a moony song to the echoing sound of a coppery gong in the shade of the mountains brown. "Oh, Timbalo, how happy we are when we live in a sieve and a crockery jar." And they must be really tiny. Like, they must be super tiny. "And all night long, in the moonlight pale, we sail away with a pea green sail in the shade of the mountains brown. Far and few are the lands where the Jumblies live. Their heads are green and their hands are blue, and they went to sea in a sieve." Sieve. "They sailed to the western sea, they did, to the land all covered with trees. They brought an owl and a useful cart and a pound of rice and a cranberry tart," important, "and a hive of silvery bees. And they brought a pig and some green jackdaws and a lovely monkey with lollipop paws." I'm gonna see this picture. Okay. "And 40 bottles of ring-bo-ree." I feel like that might be alcohol. "And no end of Stilton cheese. Far and few are the lands where the Jumblies live. Their heads are green and their hands are blue, and they went to sea in a sieve. And in 20 years they all came back." That's quite the journey. An adventure. I guess more of an adventure. Could be both. "In 20 years or more, and everyone said, 'How tall they've grown, for they've been to the lakes and the Torrible Zone and the hills of the Chankly Bore, And they drank their health and gave them a feast of dumplings made of beautiful yeast. Homer. Sorry, baby girl. There is also a dog named Puppy that lives in the sketchy house across the street. So they get a little riled up when I think it was 6 people walk in and out of the house with Puppy. So, far and few are the lands where the Jumblies live. Their heads are green and their hands are blue. And they went to sea in a sieve. So, there's some Jumblies and the silvery bees and the bottles of alcohol. I mean, Ringbo-Ree. There's that monkey with the lollipop hands, the owl. It's so cool. Don't do it, Cricket Pearl. Get down. Another car pulled up to that house. The Quengle Wangle's hat. On the top of Crumpety Tree, the Quengle Wangle sat, but his face you could not see on account of his beaver hat. For his hat was 102 feet wide, with ribbons and bibbins on every side, and bells and buttons and loops and lace, so that nobody could ever see the face of the Quengle Wangle Quee. The Quengle Wangle said to himself on the Crumpety Tree, "Jam and jelly and bread are the best food for me." I understand this on a very deep level. But the longer I live on this Crumpety Tree, the plainer that it ever seems to me that very few people come this way, and that life on the whole is far from gay, said the Quengle Wangle Quee. But there came to the Crumpety Tree Mr. and Mrs. Canary, and they said, "Did you ever see any spot so charmingly airy? May we build a nest on your lovely hat? Mr. Quengle Wangle, grant us that. Oh, please let us come and build a nest of whatever material suits you best, Mr. Quengle Wangle Quee." And besides, to the Crumpety Tree came the stork, the duck, and the owl, the snail and the bumblebee, the frog and the thimble fowl with a corkscrew leg. And all of them said, "We humbly beg, we may build our homes on your lovely hat. Mr. Quengle Wangle, grant us that, Mr. Quengle Wangle Quee." And the golden grouse came there, and the pobble who has no toes, and the small Olympian bear, and the dog with a luminous nose, and the blue baboon who played the flute, and the orient calf from the land of Toot, and the addery squash, and the bisky bat, all came and built on that lovely hat of the Quengle Wangle Quee. And the Quengle Wangle said to himself on the Crumpety Tree, "When all these creatures move, what a wonderful noise there'll be." And at night, by the light of the mulberry moon, they danced to the flute of the blue baboon on the broad green leaves of the Crumpety Tree, and all were as happy could be with the Quengle Wangle Quee. Quengle Wangle Wangle Quee. Headed to the Crumpety Tree. And the Quengle Wingle Queen. Ooh, we have an interlude. I do believe that's everyone that joined the Quengle Wangle Queen. Mrs. Blue Dicky Bird. See, I have to peek out from under because this book is so huge. I cannot tell what I'm actually showing you unless I'm looking too. Mrs. Blue Dicky Bird, who went out a-walking with her 6 chicky birds. Hey, Ellie Moose Tracks. We'll have to start that next one again because they are popping over at the sketchy house. Probably doing sketchy things. Maybe just getting groceries though. I can't judge. Either way, they're making the dogs go crazy. So we will start Miss Blue Dicky Bird again. Mrs. Blue Dicky Bird, who went out a-walking with her 6 chicky birds. She carried a parasol and wore a bonnet of green silk. The first little chicky bird had daisies growing out of his head and wore boots because of the dirt. The second little chicky bird wore a hat for fear it should rain. The third little chicky bird carried a jug of water. 'Cause why not? The fourth little chicky bird carried a muff to keep her wings warm. The fifth little chicky bird was round as a ball. And the sixth little chicky bird walked on his head to save his feet. I forget that sometimes poems don't have to rhyme. There she is. And there are her 6 chicky birds. There we go. Alright, let's get some close-ups of these little chickies. They're just so cool. I like the illustrator. They did a good job. See how many we have left. Oh no, we only have 3 left. Okay. Some incidents in the life of my Uncle Arlie. I assume this is Uncle Arlie. It's a presumption on my part though. Oh, my aged Uncle Arlie, sitting on a heap of barley. Through the silent hours of the night, close I forgot how to write there for a minute. So let's start afresh. Oh, my aged Uncle Arlie, sitting on a heap of barley, through the silent hours of night, close behind a leafy thicket, on his nose there was a cricket, in his hat a railway ticket, but his shoes were far too tight. Long ago in youth he squandered all his goods away and wandered. You know, that's not necessarily bad. It's good to wander, but just make sure you have enough to get back to where you want to end. Or just make sure you have enough to keep going. Don't squander it away, basically. All of it away. To the tinky, to this Tinniscoop hills afar. Wait a minute. I think I'm gonna have to pause, baby girl. I will finish these in a few minutes. I love you. Hey, Ellie Moose Tracks. We'll have to start that next one again because they are popping over at the sketchy house. Probably doing sketchy things. Maybe just getting groceries, so I can't judge. Either way, they're making the dogs go crazy. So we will start Miss Blue Dicky Bird again. Mrs. Blue Dicky Bird, who went out a-walking with her 6 chickie birds. She carried a parasol and wore a bonnet of green silk. The first little chickie bird had daisies growing out of his head and wore boots because of the dirt. The second little chickie bird wore a hat for fear it should rain. The third little chickie bird carried a jug of water. 'Cause why not? The fourth little chickie bird carried a muff to keep her wings warm. The fifth little chickie bird was round as a ball. And the sixth little chickie bird walked on his head to save his feet. I forget that sometimes poems don't have to rhyme. There she is. And there are her 6 chickie birds. There we go. Let's get some close-ups of these little chickies. They're just so cool. I like the illustrator. They did a good job. Hey, baby girl. I was having trouble focusing, so I had to take a minute. And so now I'm gonna finish up the last 3 because there's only 3 left. They're really fun poems. But I'm gonna finish up with it. Enjoy this very gray and gloomy rainy day. I hope you are behaving for your mama. Somehow I doubt you are. But you're probably being very cute. So, Ellie Moose Tracks, my love. I am glad you are very cute. So, the next one is some incidents in the life of my Uncle Arlo. No, Uncle Arlie. Sorry, reading backwards is tricky. Oh, my aged Uncle Arlie, sitting on a heap of barley, through the silent hours of night, close behind a leafy thicket, on his nose there was a cricket. Like Cricket Girl, huh? In his hat, a railway ticket, but his shoes were far too tight. Long ago, in youth, he squandered all his goods away and wandered to the Tinny-Scoop hills afar on... No, you can't see it there either, so I might as well just read it like this. There like golden sunsets blazing, every morning found him gazing, singing, "Orb, you are quite amazing! How I wonder what you are." Like the ancient Medes and Persians, always by his own exertions, he subsisted on those hills, whilst by teaching children spelling, or at times by merely yelling, or at intervals by selling Proctor's Nicodemus pills. I am curious as to what those are. Later, in his morning rambles, he perceived the moving brambles, something square and white disclose. 'Twas a first-class railway ticket. But on stooping down to pick it, off the ground up he green cricket settled on my uncle's nose. Never, never more, oh never, did that cricket leave him ever, dawn or evening, day or night, clinging as a constant treasure, chirping with a cheeriest cheeriest measure, wholly to my uncle's pleasure, though his shoes were far too tight. So for 43 winters, till his shoes were worn to splinters, all those hills he wandered o'er, sometimes silent, sometimes yelling, till he came to Borley Melling, near his old ancestral dwelling. But his shoes were far too tight. On a little heap of barley died my aged Uncle Arley, and they buried him one night, close behind the leafy thicket. There his hat and railway ticket, there his ever faithful cricket, but his shoes were far too tight. These cute little Orbison, and Uncle Arlie and his cricket. Ooh, and there's the railway ticket. Nonsense alphabet. More ways for you to learn the alphabet, my darling Ellie Moose Tracks. I'm excited about this. A was an ape who stole some white tape and tied up his toes in 4 beautiful bows. A, funny old ape. B was a bat who slept all day and fluttered about when the sun went away. B, brown little bat. C was a camel. You rode on his hump, and if you fell off, you came down such a bump. C, what a high camel. D was a dove who lived in a wood with such pretty soft wings and so gentle and good. D, dear little dove. E was an eagle who sat on the rocks and looked down on the fields and the faraway flocks. E, beautiful eagle. F was a fan made of beautiful stuff, and when it was used, it went puffy, puff, puff. Nice little fan. G was a gooseberry, perfectly red, to be made into jam and eaten with bread. G, gooseberry red. We have A, B, C, D, E, F, G. H was a heron who stood in a stream. The length of his neck and his legs was extreme. H, long-legged heron. I was an inkstand which stood on a table with a nice pen to write with when we are able. I, neat little inkstand. J was a jug, so pretty and white, with fresh water in it at morning and night. J, nice little jug. K was a kingfisher. Quickly he flew, so bright, so pretty, green, purple, and blue. Kingfisher blue. L was a lily, so white and so sweet. To see it and to smell it was quite a nice treat. L, beautiful lily. M was a man who walked round and round, and he wore a long coat that came down to the ground. M, funny old man. H and I and J and K, L I didn't show you the drawings. Well, let's go back here. Here are the drawings for A through G. They're just so funny. The ape and the bat and the camel. I don't remember what D was. Oh yeah, the dove and the eagle, the fan and the gooseberry. So cool. And H through N, the heron. I didn't see the ink there. Oh, it's on the other page. Here we go. Honey little man, the lily, kingfisher. N was a nut, so smooth and so brown, and when it was ripe, it fell tumble-dum down. In, nice little nut. O was an oyster who lived in his shell. If you left him alone, he felt perfectly well. O, open-mouthed oyster. P was a polly, all red, blue, and green. The most beautiful polly that ever was seen. Poor little Polly. What happened to the Polly? I don't know. Q was a quill made into a pin, but I do not know where, and I cannot say when. Nice little quill. R was a rattlesnake, rolled up so tight. Those who saw him ran quickly for fear he should bite. Rattlesnake, bite. S was a screw to screw down a box, and then it was fastened without any locks. S, valuable screw. T was a thimble of silver so bright, when placed on the finger, it fitted so tight. Nice little thimble. And we have the nut and the oyster. I assume this is from the Polly. And the quill, I don't know. Rattlesnake for sure. Thimble. Screw. Oh, maybe that's the Polly and that's the quill. That makes so much more sense. U was an upper coat, woolly and warm, to wear over all in the snow or the storm. U, what a nice upper coat. V was a veil with a border upon it, and a ribbon to tie it all round a pink bonnet. V, pretty green veil. W was a watch, wherein letters of gold the hour of the day you might always behold. W, beautiful watch. X was King Xerxes. Xerxes? Ellie Moose Rex, I have no idea. But it is a king that starts with the letter X, who wore on his head a mighty large turban, green, yellow, and red. X. Look at King X. Y was a yak from the land of Thibet, or I guess Tibet. Except his white tail, he was all black as a jet. Why? Look at the yak. Z was a zebra, all striped white and black, and if he were tame, you might ride on his back. Z, pretty striped zebra. I have no idea what we're seeing at the moment. This is the last one, baby girl. There was an old dairy down dairy. There was an old dairy down dairy who loved to see little folks merry. So he made them a book, and with laughter they shook at the fun of that dairy down dairy. The end. Oh, that's cool. So, here's the dairy down dairy. And everyone laughing. All right, Ellie Moose Tracks. Auntie loves you so much. I hope you are having a wonderful day. And, yeah, I hope you're having a wonderful day. You are too young to comprehend this yet, but tomorrow is Milkshake Day, where we have milkshakes in memory of your grandfather. So that'll be nice. And I'm positive you will get a milkshake or ice cream or whichever you so desire tomorrow. So that'll be fun to look forward to. I love you so much. And I miss you so much. I shall talk to you later. See you later. FaceTime you later. One of those. Bye, love.